My dearest Clara, I sincerely hope this finds you well. It has now been 2 weeks since your last letter, and I grow more concerned by the day. I have decided to take it upon myself to travel to Hebble House. I shall be taking the early morning train and will be with you by mid-afternoon. I miss you very much, and I am anxious to see you again. Please send Sir Lucas my regards. Until tomorrow, your loving sister, Sarah. Excuse me? Excuse me, sir? I'm sorry to bother you, but could you please tell me the way to Hebble House?
Hebble House?
Yes, I'm not familiar with the area.
You see up there? On top of hill?
Yes?
You see that roof poking through trees?
Yes, I see it.
That's Hebble House.
All the way up there.
Aye. Follow that path all the way up. It's going to rain, miss. I'd get moving if I were you.
Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon.
How can I help you?
This is Hebble House, is it not?
It is.
I'm Miss Leyburn. Lady Lucas is expecting me.
I'm sorry, madam.
I'm her sister.
Her sister?
Yes, that's right.
Apologies, madam. Please do come in out of the rain. Allow me to take your coat for you, madam. Oh, my goodness. It's wet through.
Thank you. Mrs.
Gray. I'm the housekeeper here at Hebble House.
Is Lady Lucas at home? I did write to tell her I would be arriving today.
This is rather difficult.
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
You should get yourself dry, madam. Follow me into the drawing room and I will explain everything. Mr. Samuels. We have a guest. This is Miss Leyburn.
Welcome, Miss Leyburn.
Thank you.
Miss Leyburn is her ladyship's sister.
Sister?
Yes, quite, Mr. Samuels. Perhaps you would be so good as to prepare the fire in the drawing room.
Yes, of course.
Mrs. Gray?
Please, do come through, madam.
Is my sister at home?
Please forgive the cold. It will soon warm up. Perhaps you would like some tea?
Mrs. Gray, what I would really like is to see my sister.
Please, take a seat. Thank you, Mr. Samuels.
Is my sister not at home? I sent her a letter. She should have received it yesterday.
Miss Leyburn, when did you last hear from Lady Lucas?
I received her last letter 2 weeks ago. We had been writing to one another regularly, but when my letters began to go unanswered, I have to say I felt somewhat uneasy, and I made the decision to travel up here to see her.
You did not receive a letter from Sir Lucas?
From Sir Lucas? No, I have never received any correspondence from Sir Lucas. In fact, I have only met him once, briefly. Is my sister unwell?
I don't quite know how to say this, madam.
If you could just say it, Mrs. Gray.
Well...
Please tell me what is going on.
We're very sorry, miss, but Lady Lucas went missing 2 weeks ago.
Excuse me? What do you mean, missing?
She went out for a morning walk across the moors just up on the hill there, but she never returned.
I don't understand.
The weather was very bad that day. The moors can be treacherous at this time of year. A person can easily lose their way.
What are you saying?
I'm really very sorry, Miss Leyburn.
No, I don't believe it. Perhaps she sought refuge somewhere and has been unable to send word.
There was a search, miss. A local police sergeant by the name of Braithwaite. He made inquiries at the neighbouring farms. We're having a terrible winter this year, miss. It wouldn't be possible for anyone to survive out there this long. Not in this weather.
If the weather was so bad, why on earth would she venture out?
We've asked ourselves the same question, miss.
Whilst it pains me to tell you this, madam, I fear we must assume the worst.
That's absurd. Any number of things could have happened to her. She may be sheltering somewhere that may have been missed.
Madam.
Where is Sir Lucas? I wish to speak to Sir Lucas. I cannot believe that everything possible has been done to find my sister.
Sir Lucas is in Italy, madam.
Italy? He is in Italy whilst my sister is missing.
When the decision was made to call off the search, Sir Lucas was so grief-stricken that he could no longer remain in the house. He told us that he'd be staying in Florence with a friend.
He did say that he would inform Lady Lucas's relatives. I do not understand why you didn't receive his letter. Mr. Samuels and I were unaware Lady Lucas had a sister. We certainly would have contacted you had we known.
Then I need to speak to this sergeant.
Braithwaite, miss.
I would like to speak to him as soon as possible.
I could call on him now if you'd like, but he may not be able to come until tomorrow. You see, he only has one constable working for him.
I understand, Mr. Samuels, but please do convey to him my urgency.
I will do, miss. I'll take the cart along the moorside road. He'll be safer that way once it gets dark.
Thank you, Mr. Samuels. I really am very sorry that you had to hear it in this manner, madam. This must be quite a shock. Lady Lucas was a very thoughtful mistress.
Please do not use her name in the past tense, Mrs. Gray. We will find her. This is all a misunderstanding.
Oh, I'm sorry, madam. I will make up a room for you. One of the guest rooms has a lovely view of the garden. You can see the rose Sir Lucas had planted for Lady Lucas. Oh, of course, it is not in flower at the moment, but it will be beautiful by the summer.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray.
Lady Lucas admired the gardens. Admires them. I will go and prepare the room.
Thank you. And Mrs. Gray, please do not apologise to me. This cannot have been easy for you.
Would you also like me to make you up a supper? You must be very hungry after your long journey.
Thank you, but I am not sure that I can eat anything. I would just like to lie down for a while.
Yes, madam. Of course.
Come in.
I beg your pardon, madam, but Mr. Samuels has returned.
What news from the sergeant?
Sergeant Braithwaite sends his regards and will call on you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Very well. Thank you.
I have brought a fresh jug of water for you, madam. Would you like anything else?
No, thank you.
Very well, madam. In that case, I shall...
Is the house always so quiet?
Madam?
I have neither seen nor heard anyone other than yourself and Mr. Samuels.
It is just myself and Mr. Samuels, madam.
You mean to say that the two of you run the entire household alone? Are there no other domestic servants?
There used to be. Lord Archibald, our former master, had a full complement of household staff. He passed away, sadly, without an heir, and so the house was sold. The Archibald family had owned Hebble House for 3 generations before Sir Lucas purchased it.
What happened to all the servants?
When Sir Lucas took over, he let them all go. The upkeep of Hebble House is now the sole responsibility of myself and Mr. Samuels.
So much for you to take on. Why would you stay?
Oh, it is not so bad. Sir Lucas and Lady Lucas have lived very quietly. Besides, I have worked here since I was 12 years old. It is all I've ever known. Mr. Samuels has been working here since he was a boy. His father was the stable master. Our loyalty is to the house, madam.
But how do you manage?
We have learnt to adapt.
I see. Why would Sir Lucas let the staff go?
Oh, I couldn't possibly say, madam. It is not my place to question his decisions.
I understand, but you must admit that it is rather strange.
I will not speak ill of Sir Lucas, Miss Leyburn.
Mrs. Gray, my only concern is for my sister. In her letters, Clara wrote of plans for hosting garden parties, dinners and grand balls at Hebble House, but now you tell me they lived quietly with barely a soul in the house.
I cannot say what Sir Lucas's plans were, but in the 6 weeks since they arrived at Hebble House, you are our only visitor.
The only one? Why would Clara imply otherwise?
I don't presume to know her state of mind, madam, but Lady Lucas appeared to be a little lonely. It can take time to adjust to a new life, and, well, perhaps she found planning parties to be a comforting distraction.
Perhaps, Mrs. Gray.
Pardon me for saying this, madam, and I do not mean to cause you any distress. But there were occasions when I would find the mistress talking to herself, as though there was someone in the room with her.
Oh, that is not so unusual, Mrs. Gray. Clara has done that ever since we were children.
Oh, I see. I didn't realise.
I do hope nothing has happened to her, Mrs. Gray.
Indeed, madam. Are you sure I can't get you anything to eat?
Quite sure, yes.
Very well, madam. Please don't hesitate to ring the bell should you need anything.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Sincerely.
Good night, then, madam.
Good night, Mrs. Gray. Who's there? Mrs. Gray? Is that you? Clara, wait! Clara, wait!
Miss Leyburn?
My sister there. She was running. I couldn't catch her.
Mr. Samuels, please help me get Miss Leyburn into the drawing room.
Of course. Take my arm, miss. Come on now.
Clara, I must find her.
Calm yourself, madam. You're quite safe. Sit in the chair here. Mr. Samuels, could you please pour some brandy?
Certainly. Here you go, miss. This'll set you right.
My sister. She was here. I saw her.
Now, madam. Have a sip of this. You must have had a bad dream. Oh, we should have warned you. This house can play tricks on you at night when you're not familiar with it.
It was her. I know it was. When she was little.
Just bad dreams, miss, that's all.
It was so real.
Of course it seemed that way, madam. It always does. But it's over now.
I'm so sorry. I've made quite a scene.
Not at all, miss. Are you hurt anywhere?
I think I've hurt my foot. I broke a glass in the bedroom. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gray.
Oh, please don't apologise, madam. Now I'll fetch some alcohol to put on your foot. I shan't be a minute.
Are you feeling better now, miss?
Yes, Mr. Samuels. I believe I am, thank you.
You gave us quite a fright, miss.
I am sorry, Mr. Samuels.
Not at all, miss. I can't remember a single servant who didn't have bad dreams when they first came to work here. Myself included. Mind you, stories we'd tell one another.
You're very kind, Mr. Samuels. I feel rather foolish.
Oh, please don't, miss.
Here we are, madam. It may sting a little. I'll put this wrapping around it and check it again tomorrow.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray.
There we go, all done. Now, do you think you can walk on it, madam?
Yes, I believe so.
Take my arm, miss.
Thank you. Yes, I should be fine. It doesn't hurt too much.
Just to be on the safe side, Mr. Samuels will help you back upstairs. I'll fetch a brush and clear away the broken glass for you.
Thank you. I apologise again.
Oh, not at all, miss. Right, gently does it.
Yes?
Begging your pardon, madam, but Sergeant Braithwaite has arrived.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Would you be so kind as to show him in?
Madam.
And Mrs. Gray?
Yes, madam.
I am sorry again for the disturbance last night. Please do not give it another thought. You'd had a terrible shock. It's no wonder you had a night such as you did. How is your foot this morning, madam? Not too painful, I am pleased to say.
I'm glad to hear it. I'll show Sergeant Braithwaite through.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Sergeant Braithwaite, madam. Ah, Sergeant.
Good morning, Miss Leyburn.
Thank you very much for coming. I understand Mr. Samuels explained my reasons for wanting to speak with you.
He did, yes.
Then you know I have some questions regarding my sister's disappearance.
My deepest condolences, madam.
I have been told that my sister is missing.
Right. I'm afraid that's correct.
But that you have no idea where she may be.
All our evidence suggests that she went missing on the moor and is presumed... presumed...
Dead?
Yes. I'm very sorry.
My sister is not dead, Sergeant.
Oh. Forgive me, but I was under the impression that they had explained.
But you haven't found her body?
Well, no. Lady Lucas has not as yet been found.
Then how can you possibly say what has happened to her, Sergeant? Is it not possible that my sister is alive and in need of our help?
I'll be straight with you, Miss Leyburn. Yes, it is possible, but it is also extremely unlikely.
I hadn't realised police work was built on assumptions, Sergeant.
I'm sorry to say, your sister wouldn't be the first. Even those who live and work on the moors can get into trouble. I do not wish to seem insensitive, Miss Leyburn, but it does happen.
I just want to know what has happened to my sister. Surely you can understand that.
I can, of course. But my superintendent has concluded his case. As far as he's concerned, the matter is closed. Now, unless any new evidence comes to light, I'm afraid there really is nothing I can do.
What about her letters?
Letters?
Yes, Sergeant, her letters. Clara and I wrote to one another frequently following her marriage to Sir Lucas. I enjoyed reading of her exciting new life here, how happy she was. But then something changed.
How so?
The tone of her letters became rather abrupt, more formal, almost dismissive. It is difficult to explain, but her words seemed out of character. She was not herself, Sergeant, of that I am certain.
Perhaps she was struggling to adjust to a new life here.
Then why push me away when she needed me the most? Clara and I have always been so close. We know each other as well as we know ourselves. It makes no sense.
Might it be possible to see these letters, Miss Leyburn?
I'm afraid I did not bring them with me. I had no reason to.
When was the last time you heard from your sister?
2 weeks ago. We wrote to each other 3 times a week, Sergeant. Then suddenly they stopped. As more time passed, I became increasingly concerned.
And in that time, did you write to Sir Lucas expressing your concerns?
No, I did not. In truth, I barely know the man. Besides, if something had happened, I would have expected him to tell me.
Yes, I understand from Mr. Samuels that you were not told of Lady Lucas's disappearance. Now, that is unfortunate. But you must understand, Sir Lucas was distraught at the time. Perhaps he was not thinking clearly.
Perhaps. There is still the question of Clara's letters.
You have said that your sister's letters seemed out of character. If that was the case, then perhaps that points to her state of mind on the morning she went missing.
I sincerely hope that you are not suggesting my sister went missing intentionally.
My apologies, Miss Leyburn. I did not mean to cause any offence. But it is important to consider all possibilities.
That is precisely my point, Sergeant Braithwaite. All possibilities. The constabulary may consider the matter closed, but I do not. There are unanswered questions here, Sergeant.
Very well. I will look again at the statements gathered, and I will make my superintendent aware of your concerns. But this isn't London, Miss Leyburn. We don't have the resources they do.
I understand that. Please, would you keep me informed?
Of course I will. Where can I reach you, should I need to contact you?
For the moment, you may contact me here, at Hebble House.
Well, if you will excuse me then, Miss Leyburn.
Good day, Sergeant Braithwaite.
Good day. Good girl. There you go.
Ah, Mr. Samuels. I was hoping to find you.
Morning, miss. Now, if you're ever in need of me, most likely I'll be out here.
She's beautiful, Mr. Samuels. I find horses very calming.
Aye. You seem very at ease with her, miss. And she with you. Surprising, given how afraid Lady Lucas was, is, around horses.
It goes back to when we were children. Our parents sadly passed away when we were only young. A carriage accident. The horses were spooked and they bolted. It was just a tragic accident. The horses were not to blame, of course, but Clara was scared to be around them after that.
I'm so sorry, miss. That would explain why she always avoided the stables.
What happened to us was awful, Mr. Samuels, but we nevertheless had a very comfortable and happy upbringing. We were raised by our aunt and uncle, and they were very loving. I think the accident actually brought Clara and I even closer together. We've been inseparable ever since. That is, until she met Sir Lucas, of course.
Must have been very hard on you, miss. Moving up here.
Yes. It has been hard. Mr. Samuels, may I ask you something?
Of course, miss.
Was my sister happy?
Miss?
Please, you can be honest with me.
Far as I can tell, Sir Lucas and Lady Lucas had a very happy marriage.
Thank you.
But I think she found life up here a bit, different, shall we say. To London, miss. Can take time to get used to a different pace of life.
Indeed. I have just met with Sergeant Braithwaite.
I trust it went well.
He has agreed to look again at the available evidence. However, it seems the constabulary have already made their decision.
Braithwaite's a good man, miss, for what it's worth. I'm sure he'll do all he can.
The sergeant seems well-intentioned. However, I have little confidence in his superiors. They seem to favour a swift conclusion over discovering what has actually happened. Therefore, I am resolved to take the matter into my own hands. And that, Mr. Samuels, is why I've come to you. I need your help.
Miss?
I would like to go out onto the moors, Mr. Samuels. I would like to retrace the route my sister might have taken that morning. If the police cannot be relied upon, then I must do it myself. Will you help me?
I would strongly advise against it, miss.
I am sure you would, but there is something very strange about my sister's disappearance, Mr. Samuels. In spite of that, I am expected to simply accept that she is gone, and that is the end of it, without knowing how or why or even where. It may be a fruitless task, we may find nothing, but I must try, Mr. Samuels, for Clara.
Very well, miss. I will take you. We'll meet out front in 20 minutes. I'll ask Mrs. Gray to lend you a pair of her boots. I don't think yours would be very suitable up there, miss. Not with all the rain we've had.
Thank you, Mr. Samuels.
Miss, I would just like to say, please don't get your hopes up. That's all.
I just want some answers, Mr. Samuels. I owe my sister that.
Of course, miss.
I shall meet you in 20 minutes.
Can't see how this can end well, girl.
Watch your foot in there, miss.
Is the wind always so strong, Mr. Samuels?
Most of the time, aye. You can see how exposed the moorland is.
Yes, indeed. Oh, Mr. Samuels, the idea that Clara might be lost out here somewhere.
Best to keep moving, miss. We'll follow the trail to the next ridge.
Mr. Samuels, I can see a house up ahead.
Aye, that's Harry Baker's farm. He's a good man, Harry. He helped us search for the mistress.
Does he know my sister?
Oh, aye. Sometimes when I would accompany the mistress on the moor, we'd meet Harry walking his dog, and the mistress would stop and talk to him. Harry's on his own now, so I suppose he appreciated the company.
Did he and Clara speak often?
I believe so.
If you don't mind, Mr. Samuels, I would like to call on Mr. Baker.
Now?
I should like to speak to him myself, Mr. Samuels.
All right, but we'd best not stay long. I don't like the look of those clouds. He doesn't seem to be in, miss.
Hello? Mr. Baker?
I think we should turn back now, miss. The weather's starting to turn.
Mr. Baker! It's locked.
Baxter? It's all right, miss. He knows me. Easy, boy. What's got you so riled up, eh? Easy, lad. I don't understand. He's never like this. Where's your master, eh?
Who does he belong to, Mr. Samuels?
This is Harry's dog, Baxter. Are you hungry, lad? Easy. I've got something for you. Here you go, lad. When did you last eat, boy, eh?
The poor thing is ravenous.
Harry! I don't like this. Harry never goes anywhere without Baxter. We can't stay here, miss. The wind's picking up. We must get back to Hebble House.
But I have to keep searching for Clara.
But the weather's turning bad, miss. Now, I'll get Baxter safely into the barn, then we must head back. As soon as we can, we'll come out again, I promise you. Hey, come on, Baxter. Come on, lad.
Clara?
Come away, miss. We have to go.
No! She's out here, Mr. Samuels.
Please, miss.
She's all I have. You understand?
Aye, miss, I know. Come away now.
Oh, Mr. Samuels, I was getting worried.
In you go, miss.
You soaked through, the pair of you. Let me take your coat, madam. Yours too, Mr. Samuels. Let's get you both into the drawing room. Warm yourselves up by the fire.
Clara.
Sorry, madam.
Clara. We have to find Clara.
Just sit down, madam. Get yourself warm. Mr. Samuels, what happened?
We went past Harry Baker's farm. He wasn't there, but Baxter was.
Without Harry? Oh, no, that doesn't sound right.
Aye, I know. He wouldn't go anywhere without Baxter. I don't like it, Mrs. Gray. I need to see Braithwaite.
You can't go back out in this. You'll catch your death.
I'll go.
You'll do no such thing, Miss Leyburn. You're not well.
I'm fine. I can go. I have to go. I have to find Clara.
She's burning up, Mr. Samuels.
You take Miss Leyburn up to her bedroom, and I'll get over to Braithwaite.
Surely it can wait, Mr. Samuels.
I don't think it can, Mrs. Gray. I'm worried about Harry.
Where is she, Mrs. Gray? Where's Clara?
Come now, madam.
You must find her, Mr. Samuels.
Don't you worry, miss. You just go with Mrs. Gray now.
there, Mrs. Gray. I can't get to her.
Well, that's the master's study. There's no one in there.
But the door was open. She's in there, Mr. Samuels.
We have strict instructions not to go in there, miss. It's private.
Your master isn't here, Mr. Samuels. Now open the door. Please, Mr. Samuels, open the door.
Very well, miss. Must have a key here somewhere.
Mr. Samuels?
Clara! Clara!
Good gracious.
What in heaven's name's all this?
Rose petals. They're everywhere.
Who's done this?
Sir Lucas must have.
No chance. These are fresh. The master's been gone a week.
Then who?
Miss, there's no one here.
But I heard her. It was Clara. She wanted me to find her.
You must have been having an awful dream.
It was her. She led me to this room.
Perhaps we should get you back to bed, madam.
She was in here.
No one has been in this room since Sir Lucas left, miss. I swear it.
So where did the rose petals come from?
I don't know.
You haven't found me yet. That's what Clara said. There is something in this room that I have to find.
Miss Leyburn, what on earth do you think you're doing?
Help me look.
Look for what, miss?
I do not know, but Clara brought me here to find something, and that is what I intend to do.
Brought you? I don't understand.
It was Clara. I saw her.
Miss Leyburn, that is Sir Lucas's private business. Miss Leyburn, we have made you extremely welcome in this house, and up until now we have been very accommodating. Now, I appreciate that this has all been very upsetting for you, but this is a gross violation of Sir Lucas's privacy, and we will not stand for it. Isn't that so, Mr. Samuels?
What is it, miss?
Mr. Samuels, please do not encourage her.
This drawer is locked. All of the others are unlocked except for this one. I have to get it open.
Miss Leyburn.
You may think me mad, Mrs. Gray, and you may well be right. But I believe the answer to my sister's disappearance is in this room, and I'm going to find it. Now, I don't suppose you have a key.
We'll have to break it open.
Mr. Samuels, you can't.
How?
Here.
Mr. Samuels.
First the mistress goes missing, then Harry Baker. If there is something in here that explains any of it, Mrs. Gray, then I want to know what it is. Mind yourself, miss.
Well, what is it?
Letters. Addressed to me. They're all addressed to me.
From who?
It's Clara's handwriting.
But why would Sir Lucas have them locked away?
There must be an explanation.
My dearest Sarah, I do hope you are well. Why do you not reply? Sir Lucas says I ought not to write so often, but I cannot help myself. Most of the staff have moved on, and Sir Lucas is away in London so often that I have little else to occupy my time and few people to talk to. I asked to accompany him on his trips to London, but he refuses. Hebble House is so awfully quiet. I do wish you would come and visit, dear sister. I miss you dreadfully. Your ever-loving sister, Clara. I don't understand. Why was this letter not sent to me? My dearest Sarah, why do you not write? Are you unwell? I have been so worried about you. My life here at Hebble House continues to be very much the same. I have nothing to occupy me, and my walks on the moors are my only respite. I have met a Mr. Baker, one of the local farmers, and we talk and go walking together often. He is very kind to me. I think we will become great friends. Sir Lucas grows ever more distant. At first he was so loving and attentive, but now he seems a different person altogether. He is away often. I long to see you. Please write. Your loving sister always, Clara. All these letters.
I don't know what to say, miss.
What are these? I received letters from Clara, but not these. She is so unhappy.
Sir Lucas always asked for the mistress's letters to be brought to him. He would add them to his own and would send them himself. I saw nothing unusual in that.
Dearest Sarah, are these letters reaching you? I long to hear from you. I asked Sir Lucas again if I could travel to London with him to see you, but still he refuses. He tells me I am too dependent on you. With every visit to London he grows increasingly agitated. I fear he is keeping something from me. My dear sister, have I made a terrible mistake? Please come as soon as you can. Love always. Clara.
I'm so sorry, miss. If only...
I assure you, madam, we had no idea the mistress was so unhappy.
You weren't to know.
But we should have known.
Mr. Samuels is right. The mistress's well-being was our responsibility.
There is nothing you could have done.
What should we do now?
I think perhaps it would be best to call on Sergeant Braithwaite.
Aye.
But what about these petals? Where do they come from?
I've no idea. There's only one rose on the grounds, and that's the one Sir Lucas had me purchase. But it's nowhere near flowering. Even if it were, there'd never be this many.
My sister's rose.
Aye, miss. Sir Lucas planted it as a surprise for mistress.
Sir Lucas planted it himself.
He insisted. Said he wanted to do something nice for the mistress, as he was worried she'd been a little low in spirit.
How did Clara react when she saw it, Mr. Samuels?
Come to think of it, she never did see it, miss. Sadly, that was the morning she disappeared.
Did either of you see my sister that morning?
No, madam. I went to her bedroom to wake her, but she wasn't in her room. I saw Sir Lucas in the hallway and he told me she'd gone out for a walk.
You all right, miss?
Mr. Samuels, I want to see this rose.
Oh, madam, please. It's dark outside.
Then perhaps Mr. Samuels could fetch a lamp.
Aye.
I will need my coat, Mrs. Gray.
At least wait until the morning, madam. It will be light in a few hours.
Mrs. Gray, I should like to go now. Do I need to fetch the coat myself?
No, madam.
It's not far to the pond, but do watch your step given how dark it'll be. We'd be better going out the front door.
Thank you.
Are you sure you want to do this? Perhaps I should fetch Sergeant Braithwaite first.
I just need to see it, Mr. Samuels.
Your coat, madam.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. If you would lead the way, Mr. Samuels.
Here it is, miss.
Would you fetch a spade, please, Mr. Samuels?
We don't need to do this now, miss.
A spade! Mr. Samuels, please.
Aye.
I'm sorry, madam. I'm so sorry.
Clara?
You're certain you want to do this, miss?
Yes, Mr. Samuels.
Stand back, then.
What is it?
Mrs. Gray, take Miss Leyburn inside. I'm going to fetch Braithwaite.
Is it her, Mr. Samuels?
Please. Go inside now, miss.
You found her?
Madam, Sergeant Braithwaite would like to talk to you.
I can come back later, Miss Leyburn, if that would be better.
Please do come in, Sergeant.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. Miss Leyburn, I cannot begin to say how sorry I am.
Thank you, Sergeant.
No, please. We should have looked more closely. On behalf of the constabulary, please accept my sincerest apologies. We let your sister down. The thought that Sir Lucas could have done such a thing, it never crossed our minds.
Men like Sir Lucas are extremely clever. He managed to fool everyone.
With your permission, I will do everything I can to make amends. Sir Lucas will be brought to justice, I swear it.
Have you found anything more in his study?
In all honesty, I do not even know where to begin. We found a number of letters relating to some very significant debts going back many years.
Debts?
It will take some time to go through it all. It seems that Sir Lucas is in rather deep financial trouble.
He wanted Clara's money.
Perhaps, yes. Though we can't know that for certain at this time.
Everything he did to her. It was all for her money.
Miss Leyburn, I will need to compile a report for my superintendent in order for us to build a case against Sir Lucas. I know this is very difficult, but I do have to ask you some questions. I've spoken to Mr. Samuels and Mrs. Gray, and I have to be honest. What they've told me is rather strange.
In what way, Sergeant?
Well, the rose petals, for one thing. How did they get there, and what led you to the study in the first place?
Do you believe in ghosts, Sergeant Braithwaite?
Ghosts?
Yes, Sergeant.
I'm not sure.
Clara believed in ghosts. After our parents died, Clara would often speak to them. I always believed that she would grow out of it, that it was merely a child's way of dealing with grief. But perhaps she really could see them. Just as I have seen Clara these last 2 nights. She led me to the study.
But Mrs. Gray said you'd seen a child.
Yes. Clara and I were happiest as children, before we lost our parents.
Are you saying that your sister's spirit led you to Sir Lucas's study to find her letters?
I am, yes. Only days ago I would not have believed it either. Clara always believed, but not me. I know what I saw. It was real, and it led to my sister being found. I cannot explain it to you, but it is the truth.
You understand I shan't be able to include this in my report. I won't be taken seriously.
Write your report however you must, but promise me this. Do not close yourself off to those things we cannot explain.
I certainly believe that you experienced something out of the ordinary. I must confess that I'm feeling somewhat out of my depth. But we will find Sir Lucas and bring him to justice, I promise you that.
I appreciate that, Sergeant, although no punishment can bring my sister back.
No, of course not.
I would appreciate it if you would keep me informed of any developments.
I will. I'll bid you good day then, Miss Leyburn.
Goodbye, Sergeant.
Sergeant Braithwaite.
Good morning, Mrs. Gray. I hope I'm not intruding.
Oh, of course not, Sergeant. Do come in.
I am sorry it's been so long since my last visit, but as you will appreciate, these last few months have been rather busy.
Oh, yes, such an awful business. And Harry as well. Such a shock.
I know.
You know, Sergeant, I'm not one for idle talk, but there are rumours amongst the servants that Harry's death may not have been an accident.
As you say, Mrs. Gray. Idle talk.
Oh, of course, Sergeant. Have you any news regarding Sir Lucas?
We are closing in on him. It's only a matter of time now.
Oh, it will be such a relief when this is all finally over.
It must be nice for you and Mr. Samuels to have some of the old staff back again.
Oh, yes. The new owner invited them back, and it is certainly a welcome relief to have the help.
That is actually the reason for my visit. I thought I might introduce myself to them, if it would be convenient.
Sergeant Braithwaite!
Miss Leyburn? I'd not expected to see you here.
How nice to see you again.
I've come to speak to the new owner.
And so you are.
You have bought Hebble House.
It was a surprise to us as well, Sergeant. I must say, we were very pleased to welcome Miss Leyburn back to Hebble House. Now, if you will both excuse me, I must make sure everything is in order for lunch.
Thank you, Mrs. Gray. I imagine you are somewhat surprised, Sergeant.
I must confess I am, Miss Leyburn. I would have thought you'd never want to set foot in this house ever again. No one could have blamed you.
Believe me, Sergeant, that was my intention. But my sister is here. Clara will forever be a part of Hebble House. Her spirit is here. When I heard that it was being auctioned, I saw a chance to be close to her again. I intend to make Hebble House a place of happiness.
Indeed.
Do you have plans for dinner this evening, Sergeant?
Bread and cheese, same as always.
If you would like, you are very welcome to join me here.
That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. Until this evening then, Miss Leyburn.
Sarah? I'm coming, Clara.
Hebble House is a production from Beyond the Wardrobe. It was written and performed by Helen Jenkinson and Anthony Glennon.